Hello there! What is going on, everybody? We are here with Mando Chat Chapter 3. Even though it's technically Episode 2, we're talking about Chapter 3 of the third episode of The Mandalorian. And with me is special guest Josiah Burkhardsmeier from Game Toppers LLC. You might know him as JJ's Juggernaut from the forums. This guy is everywhere. 2016 Armada World Champion, plays Legion now too. I mean, he's all over the place. Josiah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us, what have you been up to lately?
Well, currently, most of my life, since I'm working with Game Toppers now, since last summer, we create portable gaming toppers. They just sit on your existing table and turn it into a really nice gaming table. So I've been really busy with that. We just had our second Kickstarter end at the end of July this year. And so we're working on fulfillment for that, which is going to be happening with some of the smaller items even next month here, and then moving into all the full fulfillment early next year. So very busy with that and going to conventions and things. So
Awesome.
I came back from Essen in October, which was fun. It was my first time in Germany. So that was a fun experience.
That was that had to have been really cool. And by the way, thank you very, very much. If you guys have seen my Obi-Wan unboxing from Essen, I have Josiah to thank for that. That was very, very cool. So thank you so much for really hooking me up, because that thing is awesome. I absolutely love it.
I was glad to help. So it was definitely a bit tricky because they weren't like selling early to retailers at all. Mm-hmm. You had to like get in line at 10 o'clock, and then after the second day they changed it to being random throughout the day.
Oh boy!
So that like retailers couldn't get them. But yeah, so I got lucky and was able to get yours and mine. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, now everybody's gonna be mad at me and like, but well, if it didn't work, I would have gotten one way or another, whether it was from eBay or something. I don't know. Had to figure it out. I don't know how many are even out there, but I really hope that they switch their con exclusives to like a time window and like just say, hey, look, it's available online. You can only buy it for this weekend, or something like that. The same way the San Diego Comic-Con does a lot of their stuff. It's a bit, I'm not sure of the reasoning why. And a little part of me thinks, I'm guessing they probably only have the production capacity to make a small amount. And that's kind of,
yeah.
And I think if
it is always a bummer when there's something that's so exclusive.
Yeah.
There's also one thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not sure how it actually like works out, but I was looking at the base. And the base is slightly bigger than a normal Legion base.
Really? I have to compare that now. I have to go do the Pepsi challenge.
And one of the weird things about that is, especially in Legion, I've been, since I just started really playing in like September, but picking up a lot of things like, for example, a speed 2 move is like 5.9 inches. It's just under a range band.
Yeah.
Well, if you have that's because of the smaller bases. But if you have a larger base, all of a sudden that speed 2 move is now like a actual range band, maybe even a bit bigger.
Oh.
And that can mess with things.
Yeah.
And I think it is considered a legal base, so that's kind of a weird thing.
Well, I had the same problem with the Star Wars Celebration Vader, in that his base, he's standing up much, much taller. And Vader almost exclusively gets saber throw, so he's throwing, he's doing this ranged attack. So now that he's, like a half an inch taller, he has a better line of sight on all the enemy stuff. So, like, is that legal? I mean, it also makes him more of a target because more people can see him. But Luke Eddy has talked about you can't do modeling for advantage. I'm like, well, I get an advantage here, but that's an official FFG model. So I would just wonder what would happen if if I ever go to play in a premiere event or something like that. I'll bring both models with me and be like, all right, look, I'm going to have this guy sitting here. If anything, like if it becomes whatever, I'm happy to swap out the model for like the standard one. But for as long as I'm allowed to, I'm going to run the premiere one.
Yeah. Well, I even like magnetize the feet so I can take off like the extra big base part.
Excellent.
And just have them on the base. But yeah, it's like I really hope they come out with like rules that aren't like, oh, you see a tip of a gun, you can shoot the model, or like somehow change that to where it's less of a big deal if there's like variations in the miniatures,
Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna start talking about this episode, and also we got a $2 super chat from Bleed Green Productions. Thank you for that. Loved the episode. We get to see more Mandalorians. We absolutely do, and I think this would probably be an appropriate time to throw out what might be obvious, but let's throw out a spoiler warning in case you haven't seen this past Friday's episode. I mean, and that's kind of why I do this on a Sunday, to give people plenty of time to watch the episode, because not everybody can watch Friday night. Maybe not everybody has time Saturday, so I'm leaving you got Friday, all day Saturday, and almost all day Sunday. And if you've seen it within that time, or maybe seen it multiple times, you can sit down, we can talk about it. So leave us your comments or questions or whatever. We'll try to get to them. And yeah, and that is it. So let's go ahead and let's start talking. So this episode was, I think, my favorite episode so far.
Thank you.
It definitely, like, first off, there's a bunch of really cool little aspects of things that I wanted to talk about with this. First off, the director is directed by Deborah Chow. Now, I don't follow directors a whole lot, but one cool thing about Deborah Chow is that she was, I guess, named to direct the Obi-Wan series too. And if this episode is any indication of like the quality we're going to get out of her, this makes me really excited for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I think they said is only going to be like 6 episodes or something like that. Like kind of like this, like kind of a short series. Like think of like a 4 or 5 hour long movie, kind of shrunk down into, so they can tell a bigger story. So
yeah, it's one thing that's very interesting is that the episodes are kind of a bit shorter than you'd expect.
They were. I feel like this one wasn't as bad, but like episode 2 was like, or chapter 2 was really, really short, and then this one was kind of a good length, but yeah, it definitely was. We kind of open on exactly where the next episode left off. We see the Mandalorian. He's returning back to this planet. He's bringing the little baby Yoda, and I guess that's we're just calling him Baby Yoda for now, as because we don't know what this guy is, or if he's an offspring, if he's a clone, or if he's just a completely unrelated child that happens to be of Yoda's species. But yeah, he's like playing with the little ball joint, or the little ball off the end of the console there, and it's just really cute. Like, honestly, it's crazy how they made this thing that just everybody universally adores. Whether you hate Star Wars right now or love Star Wars right now or indifferent, you see this thing and you can't help but fall in love. I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy here, or that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's definitely adorable.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's super cute. So I thought this was kind of interesting. There's a lot of background stuff, and when they land on this planet, and you have just this kind of long, slow sequence of the Mandalorian kind of walking to talk, and I hate that we don't even know his name yet, but like he's walking to turn in this baby, and there's so much stuff like going on in the background, and I think like the idea of this whole sequence is to show the baby like exploring or watching stuff, but like I saw a quad jumper in the background, so like ships out of episode 7. But I think there's been a lot of things in the background. Have you noticed that, like, all this extra?
I haven't like rewatched the episodes more than once, other than the first one, so I haven't like had the time to like take in little details. I've been kind of just like focusing on the main story. There's some small things I've noticed, just because like the Star Wars lore side of things.
Right.
Read a lot of the novels and things like that. So just those little things. It's really cool to see what they've done with it, for sure.
Definitely. They are doing so much attention to detail, and I usually watch because this show was supposed to be a little more mature. And so what I've been doing, since I've got 3 young boys, I tend to watch the episode with my wife ahead of time to make sure that there's nothing, inappropriate. Before the kids watch, so naturally within the household function, I've got to watch it at least twice, because then I've got to watch it with the kids. But and then from Chaos Assassin is saying it might have been a U-wing as he gets off the ship. There was a ship that landed in front of him that looked like it could have been a U-wing, but it also might have been one of the styles of ships that we saw kind of in that episode 9 trailer. I mean, talk about background ships. Now there's a whole lot in episode 9 as well. But yeah, there was definitely a lot. We get to where he, kind of delivers this baby to these Imperials, and they're crazy about it. They're super happy to see him. They're doing all these little scans, and I feel like this. I don't know if this baby knows what's going on, but you can tell like he's like not happy to see the stormtroopers, right? I don't know what he was thinking, but. It makes me wonder. I don't know if I wasn't able to catch the last
live stream chat.
Okay.
But I know there's been talk about like the doctor having like a Camino patch on his arm.
Oh no, I didn't. I
Like
noticed the patch, but I didn't figure where it was from. I thought it was some kind of imperial symbol.
yeah, it's like it's actually Camino, and so that like
Oh,
lends credence to people having theories about
no,
there being cloning involved somehow.
that's a great idea. No, I love that. I had not even heard that yet. So, and even if we do rehash something from one of the other episodes, I'm totally fine with that because hey, I could talk about this stuff all day. No, so that was like the two main theories: is are they trying to because there's a line later on where they say just extract the material. So like, what is the material? Why do they want him? Right, and that's what this really boils down to. So he's scanning, the asset, the baby with this kind of scanner. Obviously, it's some kind of DNA scanner. Obviously, all these pucks that they're given are linked to the DNA, and this creature. What could they want with his DNA? I figured there's two things, and maybe there's more, but the two that come to my mind are they want to clone him was the first thing, or they want something with his blood. Like I've heard the theory that they were gonna maybe extract midi-chlorians. I really hope that's not the path that they're going on, but I mean I can't really think of any other reasons that they would, you know, that,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it seems like it would be something to do with the baby being force sensitive.
I think so. I like. I mean, we didn't even. I like how we didn't even know that right away. But then they certainly made it apparent from the first time he tries to like heal a wound
Yeah,
or something like that. Yes, we hear. I see in the chat Yoda is Snoke confirmed. Wouldn't that be really funny if they like Snoke turned out to be like an enhanced age, like a modified clone of Yoda or something like that? That would be. That would be a little bit weird, but no, I had heard a long time ago, and I don't know if this is true. And let me know if you've ever heard this that that midi-chlorians were somewhat retconned a little bit, not to not exist anymore, but rather that they midi-chlorians didn't create the Force, but they measured them because midi-chlorians were attracted to people who happened to be Force sensitive, so it was like their closest way to be able to, and that keeps the whole mysticism of the Force and that magic element. If you just say, hey, wizards tend to have lice, well, that doesn't mean that lice create magic. That just, that wizards don't bathe, and thus they tend to have, or whatever, So I like that idea of it. But I don't know if that's true or if that's just something that like fans came up with to make it more feasible. But
yeah, it's definitely interesting. Well, and I know we've seen like two of Yoda's species before. Both on the Jedi Council.
right, Yaddle was the,
Yaddle,
and she was actually mentioned recently in another piece of Star Wars media. So like it feels like that is certainly a possibility, and if they're basically if all the different authors and writers are like collaborating, hey, this is the next big thing, so let's all name drop some important people, so when it happens, I could see this being Yoda and Yaddle's child possibly also.
Yeah, or even the fact that we have seen three members of this species, but all of them like have force sensitivity. Where being like, this is just a race that's force sensitive.
That's true. So if you were able to clone it, even if you modify the clones, you're almost guaranteed to have force sensitive clones. And wouldn't that be a powerful clone army? I mean, and I think that's probably the most likely thing. But this show has surprised me multiple times already, so I wouldn't be surprised if they surprise me again. Wait, I guess I technically would be surprised if they surprise. You can't say you wouldn't be surprised if you were surprised. All right, now no, that's getting too. I'm about to go cross-eyed, so we're gonna move on to the next slide. So I love this. Now, one of the things they do here is they show this prop, like when Werner Herzog's character gives him the bounty, and he pulls out this, all of this Beskar in this case. I'm curious I'm curious if you noticed or if any of our viewers noticed what this prop was, because this thing has been, it's actually become like a bit of a joke. So stop me if you've heard this one already, but basically this is from Empire Strikes Back.
I did happen to see an article on this, but
Oh, you read an article on it. Okay.
I read an article, but I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard that. So.
Okay, well, yeah. So basically, it was a prop from Empire Strikes Back. There was a guy fleeing Bespin, like, you know, and there was this one guy, just he was carrying this thing, and in reality, it's an ice cream maker, but. But it was just, you know, they were just throwing together props. I mean, Luke's lightsaber was just a piece of a camera, right? And so like you know, so that's kind of how they made props back then. They just grab anything that looks like it could be science fiction and then, you know, make a prop out of it. So there was a guy carrying this ice cream maker, and it was kind of funny because I guess it was at the time in like 1981. More people were aware that this was just an ice cream maker, and it didn't really fool that many people. So it kind of became this big joke. And now, like every Star Wars celebration, there's a lot of people dressed up as this guy carrying the ice cream maker, and they all like run throughout the convention. And it's this whole, it's this. It's almost as funny as like Matt, the radar technician from Saturday Night Live, when Kylo, you know, Adam Driver did that Saturday Night Live skit. You have a whole bunch of like Matt, the radar technicians now, and so it's definitely a thing that people who cosplay do. So this is just more evidence, and I love that they're doing things like this. Like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni love Star Wars, and they have this deep, deep, long-standing knowledge where they can just pull things out of the deep, deep fandom. You know, and it doesn't even distract from the plot. Like this device, like whatever, regardless of whether or not it was an ice cream maker, didn't like take away. Didn't take away from the story. It was just there to make all of the fans go, "Oh, I see what you did there." So I mean, I was so pleased when they did that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when the Imperial guy who gives the contract mentions that, the way what he called it. Because of his accent, I thought he was just saying container, but it's actually called like a Chem10 or something like that. It's something like that.
Okay.
It actually has like the specific name he said, which I'm sure it would probably be in like if you looked at like the subtitles or whatever. I was thinking it would be like this like big container of like Beskar.
I was expecting like a full pallet, like a grocery store pallet jack full of I'm like wow, what's he gonna do with all of that? Is he gonna outfit the whole clan? You know, is he gonna go back to Mandalore and so this was kind of cool. He gets his big payday, and of course he kind of screws up by asking about about the bounty, and that kind of annoys him. Like there's instant tension, and it wouldn't. I didn't even think he crossed the line. He's just like, so what's next? You know, it was a very kind of casual question, and that's what tells you that it's like they take this super seriously. Like that's, I think, the whole like a force sensitive clone army is not too far off the money, because this dude like instantly went nuts. Like he's like, how dare you ask about this? You know, like he went from being like so happy to like, I'm about to kill you. You know, but yeah, that's so. Chaos Assassin says the Beskar would have been heavier, like gold bars. So if I think if it was a bigger amount, he wouldn't have been able to carry it out there. I can definitely imagine a type of ore that heavy.
I mean, even like that small amount could be really heavy, but like the container could kind of have like some repulsor tech in it too. You know,
that is true. This is Star Wars, and we do have laser swords and wizards that can shoot lightning. So yeah. So we get to the next scene. He leaves there. He just takes his prize and goes. And this is kind of where I was like, are they gonna? And honestly, it kind of broke my heart when like the baby actually cried for the first time as they were taking him out, and he's like, like it was kind of bad. Like I felt really bad for him. But yes, so he returns back to his encampment. He brings in this whole giant container of Beskar, and like everybody's watching him when he walks into the place. Every single head is turned. This whole scene, I love the armorer, and I'm glad we get to see the armorer again, because I didn't know that much about like Mandalorian culture, and this is really cool. Like this is straight up religious. It seems like, I mean, that's what I thought. It seems like this is more than just a blacksmith. This is like a priest. Yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting things in this scene, and one thing, it technically Legends now, but the Republic Commando novels by Karen Travis are fantastic for Mandalorian lore, and a lot of it is still like applicable even though it's Legends.
Right.
and it's like 4 or 5 books, and it's fantastic. So you learn a lot about like the Mandalorian armor and the Mandalorian culture and language and all these things that like instantly tied me into this series and being like, oh, I can see where they're pulling from these things, even though it's different.
Yeah, even though they had to wipe the slate clean, they still have the right to pull from all of that stuff, which is, I mean, it's really good. It's a good place for them to be. But if they have to change something for continuity purposes, they have the license to be able to do that, which is a good thing too. I think I might have had to do the same thing. It was kind of a bummer hearing that like all of the EU was kind of purged when the Disney merger happened. But I mean, I get it. What are you supposed to do when you've got like 300 stories all by different authors and there's like so many contradictions, and like where can you even start to do something that isn't going to step on somebody else's feet? So, I think it had to be done, but I'm glad to see that they're, pulling, a lot of things that matter, from Legends and putting it back in the right place. It's almost like having a puzzle but it's put together wrong, and you've got to pull piece by piece and put it back together the right way.
There was some things even about this scene though that ended up confusing me slightly.
Oh yeah, what was that?
Well, first off is the whole like never remove your helmet thing.
I see. That's. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that confused me a little bit too.
Because it's not even like in the Legends, and then we have both canon Clone Wars and Rebels, where we have Mandalorians who take off their helmets all the time.
Good. So that's actually a great segue into kind of what happens next. So, because she asks him, "Have you ever removed your helmet?" No, and this is the way, and that's part of this whole discussion. I feel like that's a new thing, maybe since the Purge. That could be, and I feel like it's. I love how they're not straight up just telling you everything. They're going to let you discover why that is. I feel like. Do you think we're going to see the Mandalorian's face during this first season? I
think so. Yes.
I think so too, but I wouldn't be terribly disappointed if we didn't. Because it brings up a really good discussion point. But I feel like it's a newer thing. I feel like we'll find out why. I think they're using flashbacks a lot, and I think we'll see more flashbacks. The flashbacks are helping tell story. But yes, so I think that's a kind of a big part of this is. Why have things changed? What happened to these people as a result of the Purge? And is the Purge kind of like a post Star Wars Rebels thing? Is it like directly related to, like what happened with the Sabine and Bo-Katan arc, which, by the way, Bo-Katan had her helmet off, Sabine had her helmet off, Jango Fett had his helmet off. A lot of these people took their helmets off. I mean, how are you supposed to eat if you don't take your helmet off? So like how strict are they? Is it you can only take your helmet off in like, if you're in private, like you take your helmet off if you have to throw up, I have so many questions.
You got to shower sometime, right?
Exactly. Well, maybe the helmets have some kind of interior cleaning protocol or something like that. I'm not sure. I mean, it's possible, but we did see a toilet for the first time, so other things have to come off at least. But yeah, so I feel like they're going to talk about this more. But we've seen like in the trailers, there's a scene where a woman looks like she's trying to take the Mandalorian's helmet off, and it looks like it's like an intimate moment or something like that. And so it kind of makes you think, hey, where are they going here? And I think I have a feeling that's going to be in the next episode, because from what I'm told, the director of the episode 4 or chapter 4 is the one who directed the episode with Gina Carano. So I feel like, and Gina Carano has been photographed with this same actress who they show kind of trying to take off his helmet. So I feel like there's, we're going to see like a woodsy kind of like, I don't know, like maybe almost a romantic scene in the next episode where she's like trying to take off his helmet. He'll probably stop her at the very last second or something. I don't know, but I feel like it's going to happen. But my fear, oh, go ahead.
I feel like if he takes it off, there's one of two ways. Like it could just be kind of like a casual thing, like it doesn't have a lot of significance, but it's just like, like he's alone or something and takes out his helmet.
Right.
Or it could be something way more significant, kind of signifying, like a turning away from some of the ideals that he's been following. But I don't know why they do that. They don't seem to be like moving his character at all away from like his Mandalorian clan so much.
Right.
You know?
In a way, he almost joined them closer by fighting the
Yeah.
Empire and defending some, and I'm curious, like, at the end of, well, I'm jumping forward to the end of this episode at some, but I'm really curious what it is that they value. Because, at the end of this episode, he does two different things. Like, he saves this child and he fights the Empire. So what was it that that gained their approval? Or maybe it was all the Beskar he brought back. There was a lot of that. So there's, I think they have a very high priority on children, which is, it definitely like maybe a new direction. Not to insult their opinion towards children in the past, but there's so much emphasis placed on children that I think that's maybe one of the things that they value right now. But yeah, I think if he does take the helmet off, it'll be significant, like maybe to profess love for somebody, or maybe in just in a moment, like, to do something huge. But I'm afraid that if he does it, then he's never going to put it back on. Like, like how many times in some kind of show have you seen like some super, like Kylo Ren, for example, right? Once Kylo Ren finally took the helmet off, then he like had it off almost the whole rest of the time. He hardly ever puts it back on.
Well,
so
it's the same thing with Marvel. They don't want their high profile actors having face coverings on.
Right.
It's more of a TV thing than, yeah, but I totally get you.
Yeah. So like, but for story, I feel like that they've gone this far and he still hasn't taken it off yet. And they've talked at length about how hard it is to work with a helmet and how he has to do all these different techniques. It's cool. It's very cool. I also think, wouldn't it be something if at like the end of this season he finally takes the helmet off and you find out it's not Pedro Pascal at all, it's been a complete misplay, and it's actually a female main character, and the voice modulator was male, and like they just completely threw everybody through. It was like Samus from Metroid, like the whole time he's just like, and he shakes the hair and he's just like, maybe you get like some kind of scene like from Lord of the Rings where like he's fighting some nasty Imperial Inquisitor and he goes, "No man can destroy me," and he goes, and she goes, "I am no man," like it'd be hilarious. It'd be like a surprise nobody ever saw coming. But no, I liked this. He gets challenged in there by this big, this heavy Mandalorian, and
it had me very confused.
With the heavy guy?
Yeah, because his voice, it's actually Jon Favreau.
Is that Jon Favreau?
It's Jon Favreau, and he also voices Paz Vizla in the Clone Wars series.
Okay, so
he's already dead at this point in like the timeline, but like I was really confused for a minute because I'm like, that voice is Paz Vizla and it's throwing me off.
I thought it sounded familiar, and thank you for clearing that up for me, because I didn't make that connection. But there's a reason for this. So if you look at the credits, this guy is credited as Paz Vizla. So,
I did see that.
So yeah, so he's actually a descendant of the Vizsla clan. So that so now all of a sudden there's an in-universe reason why they sound similar, because they're related. They're the same bloodline. So
and now either someone was lying or there was a typo, but I heard someone say that, I haven't actually confirmed, but that the spelling is different between the two.
Oh, really? Well, that could
that one has like an extra letter in there.
That could easily. Well, wow, that is interesting. And the reason I say that's interesting, if that is the case, I'm gonna take a detour here. If that's the case, then how much do you want to bet they use this series to be like, well, sometimes we respell our last names differently, right? And that just becomes a thing. Because I had a theory a long time ago that the Knights of Ren were going to be formed based off of Sabine. That like Ezra was going to see Sabine die, was going to become enraged and form this like killer posse of super bad dudes seeking vengeance. Then hence the Knights of Ren. And everybody used to shoot me down saying, no, it's R-E-N versus Sabine Wren is W-R-E-N. It's spelled differently, couldn't possibly be the same thing. And so I eventually said, okay, you're right, fine. But if they say Mandalorians can change the spelling of their last name, then all of a sudden, like maybe a significant life event or something like that, or you defeat a mythosaur in combat, you get to remove a letter, and the shorter your name gets, or what I'm point being,
Need like an X-Files sound drop.
Yeah, right. Will the mystery hold true? Will it be a big aha moment? That almost would feel like a cop out though, but I would feel so vindicated because I didn't try and go find all my old videos where I'm like, is Sabine the inspiration for the Knights of Ren? I'm like, I was right 4 years ago, but no, and it won't matter because nobody will care. But anyway, that would be something. I totally dug this whole scene with Paz Vizla like challenging him. He goes to try to pull his helmet off, and like they both stand up, and they've got these vibro daggers, and you can see the vibro daggers like vibrating.
I love the vibro weapons in the series.
They're so great. Like okay, I know you play Legion, I know you play Armada. Have you ever played the Star Wars RPG?
Just tiny bit.
Well,
dabbled in it.
Like vibro weapons are like a kind of a big deal in there because they're like that, that melee, like not every melee character can be a Jedi. So like vibro weapons are like all over the place in there. And I mean, there have been a lot of other things too, like Destiny and things like that. But
and there's a ton of them in different novels and
exactly
like Knights of the Old Republic, games like that.
Exactly. I think that was the first time I started getting exposed to all the vibro, the double vibro bladed swords and vibro daggers and vibro axes and all of that was, I think, in KOTOR, the very first one. But yeah, they're everywhere. So it's so cool to see these on the big screen. And you saw it a little bit in in chapter 2 when he was fighting the Mudhorn. But this was just a better scene. You got two. You saw two of them too.
And the Trandoshans, they had vibro axes.
They did. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So like, there's so much. Like, this is one of those series. Even though it's kind of only an 8-episode series, I can see watching this over and over again because there's so much production value in it. It's wonderful.
And the music, I love the score for this.
It's so good. It's not like standard Star Wars at all, which is really, really cool. But yeah, no, I love it. It reminds me. I think I said in last week. It reminds me of Rocky. The movie Rocky, like the soundtrack it's got similarities there a little bit, almost like a boxing movie or something. And so like, it's not just because Carl Weathers is in there, because he was Apollo in the Rocky movies, but yeah, so that's kind of funny. We from the chat, they're saying the Wookie with vibro axe is brutal in the RPG. Just saying. I guess your character must be a Wookie. But yes,
in the beginner game, they have one of the characters our beginner game.
I got you. They use a lot of the same art in the RPG that they do in other games, especially Imperial Assault too. So I noticed that was definitely a thing. I'm actually going to be trying to GM like one of the beginner games. I'm trying to get the kids into it, so if I can get them into it, because you can kind of help them out. It's so open ended and very flexible. It's gonna be awesome. So then she sculpts. So the armor, back on this episode, she like this priestess, and I don't even think they've said her name yet, but she is just amazing. She just kind of says one word, stops the fight. Like, she is obviously in charge. She's not just a blacksmith, but she is like a leader. And that's what really kind of gets me, that this whole place is like hallowed ground or something like that. Like, because she's obviously, she's the woman, right? She's a priestess or something like that. And she makes him these singing birds, which is pretty cool. We still don't know what the signet is, though, right? Because I'm curious about that. Have you thought about what that might mean?
Well, didn't she the Mudhorn? Didn't she said the Mudhorn will be your signet, and then he said no? Right.
So it's like something that you certainly have to earn it. So it's like almost like a badge or like achievement unlocked, right? Yeah. But his honor wouldn't let him.
I'm seeing it a lot blanking on the name, but like a heraldry,
Yes, right.
You have your own.
Like Boba Fett has that Mythosaur skull on his shoulder, on his pauldron, and that's same thing. We're hearing this in the chat. People are saying it's your house, it's for your shoulder pauldron. So he doesn't really have a house yet, so he's kind of like a loner amongst this culture that is all based on houses and stuff. So yeah, I think that sounds about right. But I'm wondering what his signet is going to end up being. Wouldn't it be funny if it's like a Yoda with the ears?
It will be interesting for sure.
I don't know if that means he would have to kill the Yoda to get that, or I don't know enough about this to be like, does it have to be a beast that you slew, or can it be something else related to an accomplishment you've got? Like if you saved
Yeah.
something, could it be that?
Well, I know there's been something else. I don't remember if it was Star Wars related or just kind of a different, but it was the same kind of theme where it's like you do an action and get your mark. And I'm trying to remember for the life of me what that was that I'm remembering this from. There was something similar that I've kind of seen that style where it's like, your action reveals your mark.
Oh, kind of like a Patronus from Harry Potter or something. Well, no, you didn't do anything. That I guess that it might have been. I don't know. I that one is just because we did all the books with the kids, but with that one it was something. I don't think you did anything to earn that one. But yeah, no. So she makes him whistling birds, which is very, very cool. I love the whole sequence of her making everything about her making this armor is just beautiful.
There's another thing about the armor which I've been confused about since the beginning of the series, is like how much of his armor, if any, was actually Beskar ahead of time. Because I think
it was just his helmet.
I think so. Because they're kind of like making it that silvery color, like the Beskar, just kind of that chromy silver. But does that mean that no one else in there actually had any Beskar except for maybe the Forge lady? I think she's kind of shiny metal wise,
right?
Armor wise. But because at the one point when she's forging when he says he's like, my armor is pretty much gone, I need to start again. And that makes me wonder, starting again, did he have any Beskar previously? I don't know. And they haven't really gone into the details on the lore for the Beskar, which I know a lot about Legends Beskar from the Republic Commando series, and that's where I'm trying to figure out what they're doing with it in this show.
It could. Well, I think they've been deliberately a little vague about that. Some are saying it's like helmet first, then pauldron, then the full armor, and then jetpack. And I'm like, well, that just sounds like I don't know if that's written down anywhere, or if that's just what he happens to be getting. But because we can expect the next thing he'll get is a jetpack. But I feel like for most of them, I think his helmet was definitely Beskar. And if that makes sense for it to be the first thing you get, since that's the one thing you're not supposed to take off. And I feel like when he's saying the excess will go to sponsor the foundlings, and everything is about the foundlings, I think it's to make them their first helmet, and then everything else can then come on afterwards. There also may be where trace amounts of Beskar may have been sewn into his armor, not enough to deflect bolts, but enough to be a little, just a lining, maybe 2% of what it would actually be, and that may be what he meant. And I have to start again. There might have been a limited amount in the armor.
I feel like there were key things they were trying to put across in the episodes. Like the first episode, the one guy scrapes the knife on his breastplate, and it kind of sparks. And I'm wondering if that is supposed to signify signifying differences between things.
Yeah, I see. When I saw that, I was thinking that was just a sparky effect because it was like a vibro dagger, and that just might be what they do against any metal. But the spark, because you also saw sparks when he fought with Paz Vizla right here, and they both when they drew the blades, there was sparks. But I don't think all of them had. Go ahead. Okay, we're doing this at the same time. I don't think they were all wearing full Beskar, so I think they were all wearing kind of like hodgepodge armor because Beskar is so rare. So I think when you saw the sparks in that fight too, it was just to signify daggers being drawn across metal.
Yeah, and so that's where I was trying to figure out, and also we saw when he was repairing his chest piece, he was there was the electric thing, there was electronics behind the breastplate that he was
right. I feel like there absolutely was. So. From the chat brings up a really Excubator brings up a really good point. She says cuirass. I can build a new cuirass, I think she said, and that's a chest plate. That's just the breastplate. That's not a meaning, But here's the thing. She says, "Hey, I can make a cuirass from what you've got here," and I'm like, "All right, sounds great. Is that it?" Because he got a lot of Beskar for one brick. He got a whole pauldron, which was big. Yeah. And now he's got 50 bricks, and you can only make something that's twice as big as a pauldron? Really?
But then you see in the next scene, he's fully Beskar.
Right. Well, some people are like, was he really fully Beskar, or did he just have Durasteel for everything else? I think he's fully Beskar, because first off, there was enough material there to make a full suit of armor, and two, it looks like he's wearing a full suit of Beskar. That's certainly I think the feel of the episode is meant to make you think that he's got a full suit of Beskar. And so all of that is happening. But her words about, oh, well, this I can make. Now, granted, when she says this, I can make a full cuirass, she hadn't taken all of the plates that he pulled out the ice cream maker. She took like half of it, or like one big stack, and then she's laying it out. So I wonder if it was an editing thing where like there was in the extended version, she's like, and with the rest I can make your other thing. I feel like I want to see the director's cut of that episode, because I feel like there was a little more explanation going on there. But that's just what I think. And some people in the chat feel have some different stuff. Some people agree about the helmets too, about making the excess being helmets for foundlings.
It'd be really interesting. I hope we get some extra information. That it's after the show's done, we get interviews, with directors and things, or whether it's like novelizations or whatever, to get more information.
I would do the audiobook for like a novelization of this, so that would really be cool. But yes, so yeah, I mean, it could be clean Durasteel, but I feel like it's meant to be Beskar. That's certainly the feel that the show and the episode of the flow of everything is giving to you. Like, he walks in, it's like, oh, look at you with your shiny new full Beskar suit, kind of.
Yeah, well, everyone else in like all the other Mandalorians, other than the armor, doesn't really seem to have any of that shine to their armor. Right. So it's like, is it just because it's new? His helmet was still shiny. Like, maybe he'll paint over it. I don't know. Or maybe it's just trying to make the main character look different.
I think that's a big part of it. At a certain point, you need to look at these things and say, well, you know what? They're trying to make sure that this series is watchable by regular people also, like people who aren't really invested Star Wars fans. They want to make the main character look recognizable and stand out. So I think that's a part of it. I loved during the forging, though, when they get these flashbacks of him, during these are definitely him as a child during the Clone Wars. Get some really cool shots of like this super battle droid and his family, like kind of hiding him. And it's just, I love a lot about this, because the cool thing is, you see him trapped there, and he's defenseless, and then this droid goes and he's like, points his wrist rocket, watch those wrist rockets, right at him, and we don't see what happens right after that, right? Because it fades to the bang, and then there's the new cuirass, the new breastplate right there, and I felt like that was so powerful, because that was like, he wanted that, like that, he said in the last episode, like, weapons are my religion. And I thought at the time that maybe that was just a catchphrase, but no, he was serious. This is a religious thing for him. And like, why did he choose this way of life? And I think we're seeing it, because this whole ceremony is like a spiritual thing for him. He's like, I was weak and defenseless before, but now with this new breastplate, boom, I'll never be that weak and defenseless again. And I feel like that was the message they were trying to send. I'm not sure, but that's kind of my take on it.
And a lot of that kind of like more like religion side of things, like it's a very serious thing, seems to come a lot more from like some of that Legends Mandalorian culture stuff, where it's like, it's a very strong cultural heritage that has these kind of, rules and tenets, if you will.
Absolutely.
Kind of
but it's really cool, like how serious they take this, and that's one reason why I love the like the Armorsmith scenes, because it's giving us a really really great new canon look at what it means to be a Mandalorian, at least at this time frame, and I think it's going to go into more why, in the not too distant future. I think especially in the next episode, if this woman tries to take his helmet off, it's a perfect opportunity for an outsider to be told, no, you can't do that, because blah 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 blah, because LMNOP, So that's
also I love seeing the battle droids in the flashback scene. I was like, oh yes,
absolutely,
and it makes me think that we're going to be seeing the Siege of Mandalore arc in the Clone Wars new season, which is coming up early next year. What if the person who saves him is Obi-Wan?
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's just a sketch. But
well, that's really, I think there's going to be, I think obviously whoever saves him is going to be something significant.
Yeah.
What if it's Yoda? Because Yoda used to fight too, and that might be like, imagine like his connection now with wanting to go save the child too. If Yoda, like this child looks just like the same person that saved me. But yeah, no, like there's a lot of like Obi-Wan opens up a whole bunch of opportunity for storytelling, especially with an Obi-Wan's series coming out. But you kind of caught me off guard with that one because I had a different idea in mind, and now I can't even remember it. But that's really cool. I like whatever it is that saves him. I think it's going to be significant. Some people had thought that maybe the Mandalorian might have been force sensitive because of the way he calms that beast in in the very first episode. It's possible, but I don't feel like that needs to be a thing. But it could be. It certainly could be, and I guess maybe we'll see.
All the main characters are just force sensitive.
Yeah, right. Well, it'd be something. But no, I really like the new look. He he gets suited up and then he goes, to sit down with Grief Karga. Everybody's watching him as he walks into the bar. He's got his new digs on. He's looking fantastic. And I loved this scene too. It was like a really good like full body shot. They're showing you the whole character, and he's got everything. He's got the bracers. He's got the wrists. He's got the leg plates. He's got actually kind of had a Jango Fett thing going on a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. And he sits down, and this was kind of cool too. You get a bounty for a Mon Calamari, and I was like sitting there trying to translate the Arabesh on there. I'm like, who is this guy's name? Is that like, because in the comics there's like Akbar has a son, Aftab Akbar, and I was like, oh, are they going to introduce Mon Calamari here? And I'm not sure.
Right.
I don't think they're going to really do that. I think that was just like kind of a throwaway thing. But yes. Somebody said from the chat they thought maybe Ahsoka would save him. That would be, and if it's just a flashback, that'd be a really cool way to get an on-screen live action Ahsoka without having to dedicate too much to it. Oh my gosh! Like, so since we're on the subject of Ahsoka. Right? Well, why not? Wouldn't it be really cool, like if they have Ashley Eckstein actually play her? I mean, it depends, like if you need a speaking part or not.
Yeah, true.
Because she is Ahsoka. She is the voice of Ahsoka, absolutely 100%. But like at a certain point too, you might want like a teenager to play her during the Clone Wars. Right, and Ashley Eckstein's not exactly a teenager anymore. So, it's like it becomes like one of these things. Like, well, do you do the Sam Witwer thing with Ray Park, where you have Ray Park act as Darth Maul and Sam Witwer just do the voice? And if you do that, you really can't do too many scenes because that's very time consuming to like double your work to trying to film and match the voices and stuff. So, I'm not sure how they would actually end up going about doing that. But if they were going to do an Ahsoka, I would want like a lot of Ahsoka. I would want like a whole Ahsoka. I want an Ahsoka series. Actually.
Right?
I would love that.
That would be great.
That would be. Well, we're kind of getting that with Clone Wars season 7 because she's a little older in season 7, so it won't be the same animation style as in like Clone Wars season 1, for example. She's going to be like a teenager in season 7, if I remember correctly.
Well, she's been changing quite a bit since the early seasons of Clone Wars. Like, there's been like 2 or 3 distinct changes. Okay. I think 2.
Okay.
So far.
That makes sense. And in Rebels too, yeah, Rebels, but a huge time jump there. But I actually just recently restarted watching Clone Wars on Disney Plus, and I really was disappointed they did not add, a watch in chronological order button because I really wanted, because I had watched it once before a long time ago when it was on Netflix, and I remember it being out of order, and it confused me because I didn't know it was going to be out of order in advance. And so I'm thinking, like, wait a second, why are they introducing Echo and Heavy? And, when Heavy died in, like, episode 2 or something like that, I'm like, why are they introducing these characters now? And, and so all of that stuff.
Yeah, like, there's not many, but there's definitely some episodes that, like, go earlier on in the timeline. And then there's that one arc where it's, like, right before the movies, like the actual Clone War movie that they did.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. That whole aspect. It's like, what? Like, yeah. Like, and so I was asking on Twitter, and a lot of people were saying, well, the idea was George Lucas didn't know how many stories he was going to be able to tell in this thing. So he like said, for season 1, I just want to tell these, 10 stories. And then once he realized he was going to be able to make another season, he's like, all right, I'm going to tell like 10 more stories. And then by season 3, he realized, oh, I can make as many seasons as I want. Well, now let's start telling everything in order. And that's why you've got so much stuff out of order. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So Mandalorian gets this new bounty, and he's getting ready to go, and then he is reminded by the little missing ball on his little joystick there, and I guess that's like the straw that broke the camel's back, and he eventually just puts it back down, and then you're like, oh, it's on. So I guess my question for you is, did you expect him to go back for the baby, or?
100%. It would have been a big shock. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it would have been unwelcome, but like with just everything that they had done so far, and the building of the Baby Yoda character, like they're trying to make it something you like, and then all of a sudden, if you have the main character not go back, you're turning the main character more into not necessarily a villain, but not necessarily the hero that you're like.
You want to have an emotional connection with your main character, and this is one way to establish that, for sure.
From a story perspective, it would have been a very different choice than they had been going the entire series so far for him not to.
Sure.
So it kind of, in my mind, had to happen. And then there's also the trailers of him fighting stormtroopers. So
true. Yeah. But I mean, granted, you can fight stormtroopers at any given point in anything. You play any Star Wars game, you're going to fight stormtroopers. So I think we all kind of expected at some point. I just didn't expect it to be so quickly. I was kind of thinking he either wouldn't give the child back, which I didn't expect, but it was a possibility, or there obviously seemed to be some disconnect between the Doctor and then the Werner Herzog's, the older Imperial, and that like he's like dead is fine, but then like the Doctor's like, no, it must be alive, and I'm like, they seem like they're at odds. So how much do you want to bet the Doctor comes out, like as the Mandalorian's leaving, the Doctor's like, you've got to help him. They promised me the baby would be kept alive, but now they're trying to kill it. Something like that. It was what I was afraid was, and that was the thing that would push him. And this, he kind of got there on his own. But the interesting thing is, one of the big questions I had from the previous episode is like, how many other people were after this baby, and how come all the other ones were under instruction to bring it back dead, like IG-11 wanted it dead or whatever. And so I like that they kind of answered that here, and it's like, well, no, we gave it to everybody had a bounty for this thing, and you're the only one that did it. And so my guess is, if I don't know if they'll explain it or not, and I don't think it needs to be explained, but you notice how the Doctor kind of like walked into the middle of their meeting, like unexpectedly, and almost got shot. I'm guessing when he had meetings with every other bounty hunter, the Doctor probably was busy, and so by the Doctor walking in unexpectedly, that was the Doctor's the one that said it must be alive, and then the Werner Herzog's like, or dead, it doesn't matter, and then he's like, no, alive. He's like, yeah, sure, alive. Or dead, and so with every other bounty, they were like, yeah, dead is fine. We don't want the Doctor getting emotional. We would rather just say, like, we're sorry, Doc, the baby died. Now please extract the DNA, So my guess is that that's exactly what went down, kind of, and so the Doctor like cares about this kid is kind of my mindset. So he goes after these Imperials, rips that little eyeball straight out of, which I'm sure was kind of satisfying, because those things were. How many times have I watched Return of the Jedi and just been annoyed at that little thing talking trash to 3PO?
Speaking of Return of the Jedi and satisfying things, the first episode, seeing the whatever macaw being roasted.
Oh, the Kowakian monkey lizard.
Kills
Absolutely.
me.
Absolutely. So if you get a chance ever to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they have those guys, and like you can bring one home. As a matter of fact, if you're so inclined. But yeah, it's just I feel like all of those little background details were just perfect. And I also loved how the one that wasn't roasted yet was a puppet. Like it wasn't a CGI. Like they saved the CGI budget for Baby Yoda, no problem there. But like the puppetry is great because it feels Star Wars, right?
Yep.
I think I don't, and I'm curious. I'm curious what you guys in the chat think. Also, do you think that like for the Baby Yoda, do you think that they're using all CGI, or do you think it's like a puppet and they're using CGI to enhance the puppet, like the hairs and the eyes and stuff? Because I could see them doing like a combination of the two. But yeah.
They need to go behind the scenes afterwards.
Yeah, I would love. I would really love. I usually don't really care too much about behind the scenes, but this is one I'm really curious about. But yes,
Well, even like some of the HBO shows have like, you know, like 15 minutes of like behind the scenes after the episode, like tacked on. Like I would love that for this.
They could,
like,
you know, that's a great idea too, especially in the after. Like, I wonder what Disney Plus is going to do after this show is over, because like this one, I think it ends late December. I think we're getting our last episode. So, what are they going to do in January when like everybody cancels their subscription? You know?
Well, we do have Clone Wars coming out.
That's true. That's true.
Is it January or it might be February or something? But
yeah, I think that's a good option. But I'm really looking forward to, you know, I'm going to keep my subscription anyway because like I want to go through the Clone Wars again. I want to watch Star Wars Rebels again. I think by that time, once the Clone Wars is done, Resistance Season 2 will probably hit Disney Plus, which I'm not a big fan of that show, but it's okay, you know.
I just started watching that. I actually hadn't seen it before. And
well, I won't spoil it for you, but it's more of a kids show, you know. Whereas Rebels was more of like a everybody show. Resistance is appeals more to a younger audience, I think.
Yeah,
but it's still got some eye candy in there. There's still good things in there, but so. We get a great fight sequence, I think, for like the rest of the movie or the rest of this episode. It kind of felt like I don't know if you ever saw like Daredevil, the Netflix series, when like when he would just like when he would get pissed off and he would just be like, all right, you know what, I'm just kicking ass for the rest of the episode.
I'm feeling almost a little more Marvel Punisher vibe though.
Okay. Very much so. Agreed. Yeah. So we get like the rest of the episode is the Punisher, right? The Punisher Lorian. And so yeah, he's just roasting people. We get to see some really cool shots of him just doing all kinds of different kills, vibro blades, stabbing people, pulling people with his grappling hook.
Flamethrower.
But we do see the flamethrower. I loved that too. Really well done. The Doctor does not die though, and I'm curious if we're going to see this Doctor again, because the Doctor's first instinct is to like, don't hurt the baby. He actually is not a slimy, scummy Imperial. He was trying to protect the child with no regard for his own life. So I was like, okay, Doctor wins cool points for me. He's probably not an Imperial at all. He's probably working for them, doesn't even know.
I don't even know if any of these people are actually Imperials.
I think the Stormtroopers are. I think they are. Like, but they have bad posture.
But I don't know if they're like actually considering themselves Imperials anymore.
True. Yeah, it's like some kind of faction, which actually, you know how like Legion, there's been a lot of talk in Star Wars Legion about like sub-factions happening at some point. This is perfect grounds for an Imperial sub-faction, like this outer rim, you know, refuge.
Imperial remnant.
Yeah. You know, all working for this Moff Gideon guy who we still haven't seen yet. I'm sure we will, you know, but like Gideon's Renegades or something like that, like would be really cool. But yeah, and so then like this is the same kind of droid we saw in episode 4 too, and he lights that thing up, which is pretty awesome. And sure enough, there's Baby Yoda there, and there's like this whole little console, and it's kind of hard to read. I was gonna try and translate all the words on the console, but I was just like, I can't really. It was like too far away, and I'm like, I don't know what, because it probably wouldn't say anything. It would probably say life signs or something like that. I was just curious if it was going to say like midi-chlorian extraction percentage or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was adorable. So he gets the baby, and then all of a sudden he's fighting one-handed for the rest of the episode. And this is kind of what kind of gave me maybe the more of the Daredevil, because he was fighting like with a handicap, you know. So I'm thinking, you know, but no, it's so cool the way they show this too. Like it's shot brilliantly, and it's just another reason why I'm so excited for Obi-Wan, because you know, if Deborah Chow is doing this good with this episode, like this was my favorite episode. Like how good is Obi-Wan going to be? You know.
Yeah, the fact that I love this episode so much, and it's only episode 3. Like I was getting vibes of like this could be like a finale type level episode,
exactly.
Just like from the feels you get from it. It's like
absolutely like this really felt like a season finale as far as I was concerned. Yeah. I feel like this episode is kind of doing I feel like the show itself, like the series, is probably divided into maybe 2 or 3 different chapters, and this was kind of the end of like that big first kind of volume, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, you know, the flamethrower looks great. I love the flamethrower. You see that in like the melted plastoid armor afterwards. And eventually he becomes outnumbered. And of course, stormtroopers do the thing they always do, which is why I have such a hard... This is how I know that these guys are Imperials. Because in everything, whether it's the movies, the original trilogy, right, or Star Wars Rebels, stormtroopers will shoot at you until you stop. And then once they have you dead to rights, that's when they say, like, all right, drop your weapons. I'm like, wait, no. You were just trying to kill me a minute ago. Now that you have the clean shot, you're not going to take it. You know? I mean, drop your weapons and think of a way to kill me before I pull the trigger. Yeah. You know, like that's exactly what they do. And certainly he does that. And you get this awesome shot of, like, I was thinking, as soon as this happened and he had 4-1, I was thinking, the first episode, right? We have you 4-1. And he's like, I like those odds. Yeah. But then I was thinking, wait, didn't she say the whistling birds was good against multiple enemies?
Yep.
And that was a really cool scene. I love that. It does make me wonder if he's got any more, though. Did he shoot all of them? I think he's still got some more.
He's at least 2 or 3 left. Like, you can see the light points on his thing. But I don't know if he only fired 4 or if he fired, like, I was trying to count, but I didn't, like, see it.
Because they swirled around so much.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're just, like, 4 insta-kills or if they're, like, he fired, like, 8 and, 4 hit. And then,
or maybe, like, each stormtrooper got hit by more than one of them, yeah.
Yeah. So
that could
I'm not
be.
sure. Like, he had a couple left.
I hope he had some left, because I would like to see that again. Like, and I would love to see, like, him fire all the rest, because, like, later on in the episode, you see him flamethrow and, like, he runs out of fuel, so, like, it also kind of reinforces this guy is not... He's a total badass, but he's not invincible. He's not Superman. He's limited by ammunition. He's also limited by just how far his luck is going to carry him. And we've seen multiple times it's not going to carry him that far. So like,
I feel like there's going to be some time or other he takes a shot or something that misses the Beskar and hits one of those insanely large open joints between his armor.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I was really, really pleased here. And then the really cool thing, this was brilliant. I absolutely love the way this works out. He starts walking out with the baby. Everybody that's got the fobs, and I'm glad that they explained this earlier. So it wasn't just a plot device to kind of set up a showdown, because it also explained previous episodes too. So, like, saying that everybody had the same bounty was really smart for 2 different reasons, and it blended perfectly. And this scene of, like, that first fob beeping, like, oh, the target is on the move, because they hadn't turned it in yet. And then the next guy's goes off, and you see these lights go all the way down the bar, and everybody's up and looking. I mean, it was beautiful. It was straight up out of, like, a Western, right? Like a John Wayne kind of Western, or like maybe a Clint Eastwood, maybe, something like that. But you get this amazing looking showdown. It was just...
It also makes you wonder, like, what was turning those fobs off so they weren't beeping? Like, I'm wondering, because we didn't see the old Imperial in the building at all when the Mandalorian went back in and got Baby Yoda. So I'm wondering if, like, he was somewhere and he, like, reactivated all the fobs, or, like, it was triggered because Baby Yoda left the facility, or what?
Yeah, I feel like there was probably some kind of geolocation involved. Like, they probably automatically turned off. My guess is they were programmed, like, hey, once he's here, then it's done. That makes sense. You have stuff like that in real life with cell phones. You have geofencing. You have all this technology that can control the location of certain things with your GPS and and all of that. But it could also be that the doctor, whom he didn't kill, didn't know what was going on, and the doctor may have hit some kind of alert, like turn the bounty back on because our prize is gone. So the doctor may have reactivated all of these. That might have been like why they all happened at the exact same time. It might have been. And of course, he'll probably regret that if he was just trying to save the child. But then again, the doctor might not be as innocent as we think, because he may want to clone the baby just as much as everybody else. Maybe he's just got a slower way to do it, which would keep the baby alive. I don't know. I mean, like, so that's what I want to hear from everybody in the chat too. Is like, do you think this doctor is evil or good, or do you think we'll see the doctor again? I feel like we probably will.
I think the doctor is more so like a doctor, as in, like, we don't necessarily need to harm, like, our study subject, It's like there's that, like logic of we want this alive so we can keep using it, but also the logic of I don't like just hurting things, you know.
Yeah, he's certainly not a chaotic. Like if this was Dungeons and Dragons, he wouldn't be. I don't think he's a chaotic evil, but at best, I'm going to give him true neutral for right now. I said best, you know, yeah. But yeah, well, but then again, so our hero isn't. You know, he's certainly no paladin either. But so then you get this amazing standoff where, like, as he's walking to his ship, everybody's like, you know, kind of just looking down at their, like, checking their phones, like, wait, what? Hold on, did I just get a silver alert? You know, Toyota Eclipse. Wait, there's a Toyota Eclipse. You know, like,
I mean, it's for the baby, so it would be more like an Amber Alert.
Yeah, exactly. Amber Alert. Thank you. Yeah, I think what is Silver Alert? Well, like somebody with the dementia kind of gets into a car and drives away. I think so. But yes, so like everybody gets this Amber Alert, and then Grief Karga steps out, and they have this amazing showdown. And the suspense here is just perfect because it's not too long, it's not too short. The timing for everything is just right, and you think for a second he's actually going to turn over the baby. You know, that's what I mean. I didn't think he was going to do that, but then I mean, you know, then maybe we will. But yeah, he eventually rolls in. You know, he does this amazing flip right into the speeder. That flip actually was insane. I was like, how did you not hurt the baby by doing that? You know, I don't know. Maybe the baby used the force to cushion him a little bit, but. But yeah, so you get this great shootout. Feels like, you know, classic Western. And I think Star Wars was always this blend of sci-fi and Western. So like this episode really goes to those roots. And I was watching this. My wife says, she's like, you know, why are they all shooting him? Why don't they just shoot the pilot, the driver, you know, the droid? And then like almost on cue, you see Grief Karga like kind of like lining up his shot because he's the leader. He's smart, you know, and I like that they make him now like, not just a dumb, mindless villain. Like he's actually he's a thinker, you know, and that's why he's in charge because he's a smart. He's going to be a tough adversary for sure. And so he's
a villain per se, like in the sense of being like a bad guy. I mean,
villain might not be the right word. It might be certainly maybe a nemesis for our hero. But yeah. Oh gosh, there's a perfect word, and I just can't think of it right now.
From his perspective, he's just doing his job, you know, like you can't let someone in your guild mess with all the bounties, you know.
Right, no, but he's clearly the antagonist right now, or at least an antagonist. He's not the antagonist, but he's going to be an adversary for sure. And I'm pretty sure we'll see him again, although he doesn't. I don't know if he has to be in the next in the next couple episodes, because I think his chapter, like his story, is done for now, but I think there's every reason to show him again, and whether it's not in this season but in a future season, or in maybe even a different story altogether, like
don't kill him so he can show up in Obi-Wan.
That honestly, that would be awesome. Because actually he seems like a Hondo Anaka kind of character right now.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in it for the business. He's like, dude, you broke the rules, we've got to bring you in. You know, and yeah, he might not be a villain, is probably the wrong word, but yeah, I get that. But I love this scene too of like the forked prong of his rifle kind of sticking out from the thing when they were not sure after the cart crashes, and he's like, it's so great. So yeah, very pleased with that, and then just when you think like all hope is lost, right? There's this scene where he kind of looks down at the baby, and I'm like, wait, is the baby going to use the Force again? You know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but then
Mandalorians.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I did not expect that at all.
I was like, yes.
And there were so many of them too. Like when you saw the first one, like I remember watching this and I was thinking it happened in slow motion. Like I saw like this, I was thinking, because we knew that we were going to see Gina Carano and her character, and I was thinking for sure we were going to see her show up and like be like, well, the rebels will save you since you're a good guy now, you know, or something. I for lack of any, I mean, that might not have made much sense, but maybe they could have come up with a way for it to make sense. I don't know, but this was.
And seeing them all coming on jetpacks was hilarious, because like the last episode when he's fighting the horn thing, I just forgot the name of it.
Mudhorn.
Mudhorn. And I was like, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, he seriously needs a jetpack real bad. Like that rocket would come in handy. And then this episode again, I'm like, he needs a jetpack. Yep. And then he's like, I gotta get one of those. And I'm like, I told you.
Oh yes, yeah. So yeah, no, that was just so great, and we get like a really good scene of Paz Vizla and this heavy guy with this amazing gun. Like I want him in Legion so bad. Like oh my god, like can I have like he's almost like if Baze Malbus became a Mandalorian, right?
For a second, I was like, is that a Z6? And I'm like, not quite.
it's like a Z8, you know. He's gonna roll like 6 white dice and 2 black with surge to crit. Yeah, no, like he looks amazing. So like, I can't wait to get these guys, and they'd all have jump too. Like, just a bunch of flying Mandalorians.
I love Mandalorians so much.
Well,
so
I mean, I don't want to pretend like I've been a Mandalorian fan for a long time because, like I said, I don't know much, but they're really growing on me here, and I would love to see them in the game.
Well, even if they're not these guys, we could totally get a Republic sub-faction.
I think you can get Mandalorians in every faction. I think you can. You've got. I'm going to come back to this though because all right, all right. With there's like I got like 3 more slides left for the episode. So Grief Karga, saw what was going on, gets out of. He's like, I ain't fighting all these Mandalorians. So he sneaks on board the ship. They have a showdown. Again, classic style. And he even gives them another chance too. Like this is why I'm kind of agreeing. He's not. I don't think he's a villain. He's just like no. There's a lot of money in this. I'm going to lose my reputation if you steal this baby. And so Grief Karga is going to have a score to settle after this, for sure. But he gets shot right in the Beskar plates that he showed earlier. He's like, I'm still a rich man. Straight out of a Western. It's classic. And it worked too. I was overjoyed when I saw that. I'm like, that is absolutely perfect.
Well, once they cut to him, I'm like, oh, he's fine.
yeah, he's totally fine. He's just his pride is hurt, that's for sure. His pride is absolutely hurt. And then, of course, it kind of ends. The last scene you get is the Paz Vizla is saluting. I didn't know Mandalorians saluted like the U.S. military does, but apparently, I guess they do. But yeah, so we get that great scene of them flying off, and I guess they're cool now. And I'm curious what it was that he did that made. That earned their respect. Was it fighting the Empire? Because that was obviously something cool. Or was it the child? Because it certainly wasn't like Mandalorians aren't all bounty hunters, right? Like I kind of hate that. Like we always see Mandalorian because all the rest of these guys weren't bounty hunters. I
mean, it could also just been a Mandalorian in need, and it's that Mandalorian creed type.
True.
Sure, they're down in their tunnel thing that they only leave one at a time. Mm-hmm. I doubt they missing the sounds of the gunfight up above,
Yeah. Audio Weasel says it's hard to salute properly while planking in midair. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I'll have to give you that. But yeah, so yeah, I think it was a little bit of everything, helping a foundling, a possible foundling, and wouldn't it be cool if that baby Yoda grew up to be a Mandalorian? Like, imagine his helmet. Oh, that's the tiniest Mandalorian, right? Oh my goodness, that would be amazing.
Better hope those ears hold.
Yes. Loved it. So, I mean, yeah, it just ended great. I didn't really need the salute at the end, but it's cool to know that they're on good terms right now. Loved it. I thought it was a great episode. I think
that was maybe a nod to Iron Man and Jon Favreau's work with that.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Because yes, I was absolutely thinking of Iron Man. Like that was like an Iron Patriot. It was just like that, and Jon Favreau, brilliant. See, excellent, very good point. So, all right, now I want to go back to the thing about Mandalorians working for every faction in Legion, because I don't know how they plan to do sub factions, and when that does come out, I'm going to be very, very excited. But I think you've got Mandalorians showing up in every faction in Star Wars, minus the sequel trilogy. For the Republic, you've got like Mandalore was pretty much aligned with the Republic during Satine and all of them, right? Obi-Wan, Satine, right? So you've got that. Now, granted, they were a little bit more peaceful at the time, but you could still have a version of them. And of course, for the Separatists, I would assume you put Death Watch because they're certainly more aligned with, if they had to choose Republic or Separatists, they're not going to Republic. And then, of course, for the Rebels and the Empire, you've got Boba Fett. But outside of Boba Fett, because he was more of a bounty hunter, you have the whole arc in Star Wars Rebels. We had Concord Dawn, who eventually kind of like sided with the Rebels, and then you had that entire other group of like the white and red armored Mandalorians that had signed a contract with the Empire. So you had you had even splits, and I forget the name of that other.
It was Gar Saxon was the
Gar
leader.
Saxon's group. Yes, yeah. But I think they had a name for their specific particular.
I think it was a house name, but no, it wasn't Saxon. I don't remember what it was. It was. You're right. It was some name.
Yeah, similar to how Concord Dawn had their mate. They weren't just Fen Rao's boys, or something like that, or guys and gals. Yeah, but yeah, and then of course you also have with Bo-Katan comes back and unites the clans and stuff. So you've got like all these sub factions of Mandalorians all over the place. With potential more coming with whatever they end up doing for Sabine in the future, if they do any more in the sequel trilogy timeline, we're still missing stuff from season 7 of Clone Wars. I feel like they could be all over the place, and there might be generic Mandalorian troops, and maybe if you want to, there might be a rule that, like, I imagine sub factions would have different rules, and they're like, okay, if you want to run Mandalorians in the Empire, you must have Gar Saxon in your army, right? Or if you want to run, or like somebody from a list of the Imperials, like you have to have at least one, and then all the generics can now conscript under him. If you want to have, your generic Mandalorians in the Rebels, you have to have at least one Rebel-specific Mandalorian, like Bo-Katan or Sabine, and or if Satine is in the Republic, if she's your commander, then you can have.
Could be a different unit leader upgrade, like Pow or Bistan, but different ones for the different sub factions.
Yeah, it could be. That's a great idea. But I would love to see some generic Mandalorians that can go to any faction if they have a Mandalorian leader. And that could just be they could just be called Mandalorian Trooper. And the Mandalorian, just how clone troopers have their own, thing. And that would also allow you to be able to have a mix. And so maybe you can have Boba Fett and Sabine in the same list, and then just bring all the Mandalorians in there. It's like a Mandalorian specific list, and that would be the way you could maybe even mix like an Imperial and a Rebel unit together. If they were both Mandalorians, they could work in that list.
I think it'd be cool if they did kind of like a larger expansion, like a bigger box that was like a sub-faction box,
in between, not as big as a core set, but like bigger than... Yeah.
If you have one that's multi-faction like you're talking, part of which makes me hope that we could see this sooner rather than later is just because like Clone Wars Season 7 is coming out, and Disney likes to try to push newer products, and Disney kind of has some of the say.
They do. LFL. It's like when something needs to be hyped up, usually that coincides with product release. So
seems like Mandalorians are hot right now.
They are very hot right now, and it's too early, I think, for them to do it. But I think this show is such a success; it's easily probably warranted a season 2 and season 3. So maybe close to the launch of season 2. I mean, plus it takes a long time for Fantasy Flight to be able to do anything. So we might see, not long after season 2 comes out, that stuff inspired by season 1 finally hits the game. I could see that. Because they probably have a lot of... I would imagine FFG probably has a lot of stuff worked up right now for Episode 9's eventual release, and then all the merch that's going to be available after that. So that's about it. All right, well, gosh, I mean, that was a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I think we kind of covered most of the bases for this episode. Is there anything else that I'm leaving out that you can think of?
No. I think I got to go over all the points that were through my mind when I was watching the episode.
And there's a lot more. I mean, that was kind of like the end of a big arc, and I think the next episode is just going to set up whatever's coming next. And I don't think we'll deal with the consequences of this arc for at least a couple more episodes. I think he'll have like a pause in the storm, meet some new people, and then I think he'll gain an allies, and then have to deal with the consequences of the sin, which was episode 3.
Oh, and there was one other thing I just thought of. I've seen a bit of a debate about Jango Fett and Boba Fett lately.
Okay.
Because apparently, as part of their whole Disney canon wiping thing, Jango Fett might not actually be a Mandalorian anymore.
Yeah, I heard that George Lucas had said that that the Fets were not Mandalorians, and I think to do like, look, what do you mean by that? Because Mandalorian is means a couple of different things to me. Like there was a
So,
planet Mandalore, so if you're a citizen of that planet, that constitutes one definition. But in this show, it seems like the Mandalorian is a way of life that you choose to follow. So basically, a religion. It's kind of like,
yeah.
like, hey, are you kind of like somebody who is Jewish? Are they, from Israel, or do they choose that religion? And so I guess that's maybe a loose analogy, but that's kind of my takeaway on what it means to be a Mandalorian right now. And so I'm
For sure.
curious. Like when somebody like George Lucas says, "Well, Jango Fett and Boba Fett are not Mandalorians," like either context or just one of those two contexts, or what do you mean?
So, like, if you go all the way back to some of the Mandalorian information you get from like KOTOR, you hear a lot about like Mandalorians being this warrior culture, and then they're led by a Mandalore, usually as their leader.
Yeah, who's like the ultimate, who's like the Pope of Mandalorian or something, or the
Um,
Emperor,
well,
I guess.
in the legend, at one point, Jango Fett was Mandalore. Like he was leading the Mandalorians against the Jedi in some different fights and whatnot. That was some Legends material, which ended up getting wiped. And in the canon, now it's Jango was like adopted, I think, kind of when he was younger and was on Concord Dawn. He was raised on Concord Dawn and then got like his Mandalorian armor, but wasn't like technically a Mandalorian per se. But now it's the same thing where, like in the Republic Commando novels, it was very much that being Mandalorian was a culture thing. Like you don't have to be born a Mandalorian to be a Mandalorian.
Well, I think they've established that very clear with the whole foundling kind of thing. Like, hey, we saved you, we brought you in, you chose our way of life as your own. It seems like they'll have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of what the armorer was saying, is she was saying like, how can he be a coward if he's chosen this way of life? Which was it's so great, man. There's so much good stuff in this episode. But yeah, and it definitely seems like Jango Fett did not choose an honorable way of life. And based on what we know of Boba, and that could be like, if Boba's not dead, that could be a really cool arc for them to do with Boba at some point, for him to try to return to that way of life.
Yeah.
To regain honor in his 40s and 50s.
Because like honor is kind of also a relative term for like Mandalorians. Because I don't think I would see or characterize Mandalorians' honor as necessarily equating that with like morality.
Well, yeah, they have their own morality, but there are certain parallels, because obviously fighting the Empire was one. Granted they had wronged them, but helping children seems to be part of the new morality for what Mandalore stands for now. So, and I think they wanted at least a better version of Mandalorian culture to exist at this point in time, if you want people to care about your main character. And so I think that was pretty important. But yeah, I'm really anxious to see what more they explain, what gets left out, and what they save maybe for books or something like that. So that'll be really interesting. Or maybe episode 9. Maybe we'll see some of this, kind of trickle down to episode 9.
One other little tidbit about Boba I heard was that in the holiday special, the infamous holiday special that I've never seen.
It's on YouTube. You should see it.
Boba Fett actually uses the same rifle the Mandalorian
He
does.
does. A lot of the stuff you are seeing in this show has drawn heavy inspiration from the holiday special. So that rifle, also the whole line about your people rode the mythosaur. Well, when you first see Boba Fett, he's riding this huge dinosaur when he meets Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and them, and he's using this rifle to kind of whip the beast into submission. So like they present him as a beast master right away. Like also certain images of the Mandalorian when he was riding the blurg and holding that leash are almost like a scene for scene kind of copy of Boba Fett riding that, from a certain angle, that giant dinosaur. So there's a lot of little things like that taken, which are really cool.
All of a sudden makes so much more sense being like, no disintegrations.
It does, absolutely. I wonder how many of those rounds he has left too, because You know.
Yeah.
I hope we see him stop at like a weapons depot to like buy more ammunition at some point. Would be kind of cool. Kind of cool seeing how that works. But they're giving us so many insights into things we normally wouldn't have insight into. So very, very cool. Well, I think we're going to kind of wrap up, but I do want to remind people to check out Game Toppers LLC. There should be a link in the description below so you can check them out. Awesome table toppers. Like I know at most of the conventions I have been to that you guys are also at, like you guys must have you must have a lot of these because you're like, I see them everywhere. All the CMON tables. I see them like all around wherever people are playing games on the convention floor. They're playing on one of your table toppers. And if you've got just a regular fold-up table, you can convert any table into a huge deluxe gaming table. And they've got lots of different sizes. They're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous.
We have a lot of wonderful partners with different publishers in the industry who have our toppers or use our toppers at conventions. So you can see them in all sorts of different conventions. Also, if you're going to PAX Unplugged, anyone, we have a booth there. You could check us out at PAX Unplugged. Say hi. Say you saw me on Crabbox live stream.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Josiah, for hanging out with us. And I will see you soon. I probably won't see you at PAX Unplugged, but maybe Adepticon, if not, definitely Gen Con, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Star Wars Celebration next year. I don't know. That's one that's kind of up in the air, but it would be fun. But
yeah,
who knows?
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank you guys all for hanging out with us today. And be here next week at 8 p.m. For another episode of Mando Chat. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.